What's up, everybody? Today we're going to cover and talk about the massive fight between Canelo Alvarez versus Bud Crawford and many more when we come right back. Welcome to another episode of Ring Walk Boxing Podcast. I am Bean. And as always, we're going to jump right into the thick of the boxing talk and talk about the different layers and all that's going on right now. It's quite a lot going on in boxing that's going to be coming to fruition here in the next couple weeks. We are now in mid-January, and right around the beginning of February, we got a fight jumping off already. So from the beginning of February to, I want to say, to the end of February, we're going to have a lot of great fights going down. So make sure you're ready, and I'll try to do my best to update people on these fights. So one of the many fights in February is David Benavidez versus Morrell, where David Benavidez now is in a different weight class. So this would be like his second fight, I believe, at the light heavyweight division, which would be the 175-pound division, as he fights another David Morrell. So you got David versus David. And of course, Benavidez, being like he is, he can be pretty blunt and straightforward. And he pretty much says he's going to bring pain and do David Morrell bad in that ring. Um, so we'll see how he acclimates to being at 175 pounds versus a guy who's already been at uh, that weight division. It's going to be a very great fight. I'm looking forward to it. I'm looking forward to the future of David Benavidez as a light heavyweight division boxer and what he will be giving to the sport of boxing. So, if you're a David Benavidez fan, David Morrell fan, or just a fan of boxing itself, make sure you tune in to their fight in the month of February. Um, Also, uh, it's been trending very, very heavy that Canelo Alvarez will fight a big name opponent. Another fighter from a different weight division that they also declare as a pound for pound. They say Canelo is a pound for pound best. They also revere him as a pound for pound best. And that would be none other than out of Omaha, Nebraska, Terrence Bud Crawford. And yes, you heard it right. Terrence Bud Crawford versus Canelo Alvarez will be taking place. And if I'm not mistaken, this was all brought forth through the Riyadh season, which is an association and directly from Turkey Al Sheikh and his constituents on his panel of boxing. Now, this fight here is going to be it's going to be so big. And shout out to Phil Flanagan and Joe Pro James, because different ones had made a post on FB, and we were talking about this fight. Phil Walls, you know, you got somebody like Bud Crawford, who was at 154 pounds, and he will be stepping up in weight classes, two weight classes, to fight Canelo Alvarez, who is a natural 168-pound fighter. Now, by no means am I making a comparison of Adrian Broner to Bud Crawford. Bud Crawford is his own in his own league. But what I'm trying to say is, at one point when AB was boxing, he himself moved up in weight. He jumped up two weight classes to fight a very dangerous Maidana, who had a good chin and had a very pressure style fighting style. Bud Crawford, to a degree, will be fighting someone I could say that has a style of pressure fighting, a very good chin, and I don't believe Canelo Alvarez has ever been dropped or knocked down in boxing. So that's a testament to how good of a chin he has. Even when he stepped up from 168 to 175 as a light heavyweight to face Dimitri Bivol, although he was beat every round against Bivol, he showed a good chin. Even though he pretty much lost just about every round, he showed that he could take a punch and give some back. So, what should worry any Bud Crawford fan is that how will his power transcend from being a smaller guy at 154, stepping up to the weight of 168? Will his power be enough to make Canelo Alvarez respect his power at 168 pounds? That's what we got to ask ourselves. Uh, Now, if it's a situation where Canelo does not respect his power, he will definitely be trying to cut off the ring. He'll be trying to track down and chase um, Bud Crawford all night. So Bud Crawford, if he can't beat him as far as stopping him with stopping punch power, he's going to have to win on a decision on points. So he's going to have to use his switch hitting style, orthodox to southpaw, and just use his footwork and his speed and all the tools he has, all the intangibles that he carries, and all the weapons he has in his storage. He's going to have to pull them out for Canelo Alvarez because he's fighting a much bigger guy. So, but I will say this: if Bud Crawford can defeat Canelo, there can be no doubts that he is in every sense of the word, a pound for pound great. You won't be able to deny him any longer. You will see seen all you need to have seen if he beats Canelo Alvarez. This is a very uh, tough mountain to climb right here for Bud Crawford. I don't have doubt. I don't want to bet against Bud Crawford. I kind of had my my feelings versus Spence. I thought he would be too small against Errol Spence, but he showed us not only could he beat Spence, he dominated Spence. Um, Now I don't see it going that same way against Canelo Alvarez as far as a domination, but he does have the tools, like I said again, and he does have those intangibles to give a lot of issues to Canelo Alvarez. So if you have a prediction with those two guys, just say it in the chat room. Who do you think will win between Bud and Canelo Alvarez? Hey, shout out to Graham over in UK. Uh, he says, okay. Hopefully, can you hear me now? I'm better. Graham, is it still sounding that way? Let me know in the chat room. Um, Hey, shout outs to Scoob. Cuzzo, what's up, man? Yeah, man, I appreciate that, man. I'm trying to ask all the necessary questions, man, when it comes to Bud Crawford and Canelo, man. Man, I look forward to it, man. And like I said, it's definitely a fight that will show just how great Bud Crawford is. If he could pull off this fight, you could really say that he can just about do anything at 154 because he's jumping up two weight classes to fight a much bigger Canelo, a very resilient Canelo. Also, one thing we know about Canelo, those mid rounds on up, it's like where most fighters start to slowly get slower or mid pace in the mid rounds. It's like Canelo goes to a whole nother gear. He showed that against Caleb Plant that you would think he would tire, but in rounds 6, 7, 8, and 9, Canelo is really turning up the notch. And I'm like, wow, who does that? Like most guys start to get tired, they want to start, clinching a lot because they're trying to get rest. But Canelo is still at his opponent, full throttle. Bud will need to be careful with that, and hopefully gaining the weight doesn't slow down his mobility, his footwork, his head speed. You know, he's gonna need everything in his arsenal to beat the likes of Canelo Alvarez. It's gonna be something to see, y'all. It is gonna be something to see when these two guys lock horns in that ring. Um, hey, what's up, Scotty? God Body, what's good? You said, who you got? My only question before I subscribe. Um, who I got with Canelo and Bud? Oh man, that's putting me like in the hot seat. But it is what it is. Um, I have to edge Canelo on this. Uh, I would see if Bud did win, it would be on points. He's not going to drop Canelo. He's not going to knock him out. So it would be like a on points uh, victory if Bud were to win. But the way that I see it going, Canelo has the great chin, the power. He knows how to cut off the ring, and he's a veteran. Canelo would likely stop Bud uh, probably like around round 10, maybe round 10, maybe round 11. He could stop him. We'll see just how good of a chin Bud has as well in this fight. You know, a lot of things will be answered when these two guys fight. Um, and I'm just gonna be so enthusiastic about this one. Oh, I appreciate it, Scotty Godbody. Good looking, brother. Thanks for subscribing. Um, okay, I see you, Graham. You say TBC, Terrence Bud Crawford. Yeah, man. If anybody could pull this off, it would be somebody on the level of Bud Crawford. I mean, the guy is very he's a boxing brain. He's very smart. He has the ring IQ, the ring generalship, and all that. The tenacity to beat somebody on the level of Canelo Alvarez. Um, Also, lately trending in boxing, you got the one and only uh, Daniel Dynamite Dubois. And also, I want to say big shout outs to Ring Magazine. Ring Magazine just had their 2024 boxing awards. And Daniel Dynamite Dubois, he won Knockout of the Year against Anthony AJ Joshua. I'm a AJ fan for those who may not know, but if you're in the boxing group, you probably already know that or would assume. However, congratulations to Dubois, who won Knockout of the Year. Uh, he was able to knock out AJ. Now, also pertaining to Dubois, do you think he's being overly arrogant, or is that just a confidence boosters? He's won his last few fights. He beat Big Baby Miller. He beat Philip Herkovic. He knocks out Anthony Joshua. I think prior to Herkovic and Miller, he beat Kevin Lorena. So him being on this streak of wins, is that just the confidence, or is he being overly arrogant, because he has stated when he had a when he talked to Joseph Parker, he was saying that I'm not overlooking you, but I am going to do a demolition job on you. Um, and Parker, by no means, and let me rewind something back real quick. Something I was talking to one of the mates over in UK. Um, so what's up, Mr. Richardson? Uh, so what we were talking about was okay, Dubois knocks out AJ or whatnot. Okay, but him doing that to Anthony Joshua is not going to be the same for Dubois to do that versus Joseph Parker. Two different style fighters. Styles make fights. You can never say because one person gets knocked out. If fighter A knocks out fighter B, that doesn't mean that fighter A can also knock out fighter C. That's a triangle theory. AJ made it convenient for Dubois to knock him out. He did everything the opposite of what you needed to do to be successful in a fight. He kept his guards down. He walked back in a straight line. He had his chin up in the air. So he had no type of protection against the overhand right that hurt him early in the fight. And then later, by the time he's trying to regroup and fight off the punk drunkenness, it was already a wrap. Once Dubois could sense he was hurt and wobbly, he stayed on him round after round. Well, see, the difference between AJ and Joseph Parker is this. Joseph Parker has footwork that AJ doesn't have. Joseph Parker has faster footwork. He has better defense. He's better all around defensively than Anthony Joshua. He doesn't have the punch power that Anthony Joshua has. But ring IQ and a lot of other skills, Joseph Parker definitely has that. So it's not like I can't say that Dubois couldn't get a knockout against Joseph Parker, but it's not going to be an easy knockout. It's not going to be like the AJ knockout. It's going to be like he has to really go in there and get it. He has to really go in there and try to do like he did against Usyk. Put some pressure on him, go to his body, see if the body shots can slow down Joseph Parker. And he also needs to be very careful because those counter punches, the power of Joseph Parker to me is underrated. I don't think people give credit to Joseph Parker like they should. We saw what he did with Chisora, who is a very tough opponent for anybody. And Joseph Parker, in the rematch, he dropped Chisora like 2 or 3 times. So he definitely has punch power to put a man down. So Dubois needs to be careful at the same time because you don't want to be thinking so offensively about trying to get your man up out of there that you start to neglect what he's throwing back at you. And you're not being defensively sound and defensively responsible. That's also something that boxers need to watch out for. Hey, what up, Joseph Torres? Canelo beats Crawford. There's weight divisions for a reason. Hey, man, much respect, man. I feel that way as well. Uh, if somehow Bud pulls it off, it'll be a shocker. But yeah, he's definitely the man of his division, Canelo. Now, if it was one weight class, okay, I'd be like, okay, Bud has a very good chance. But 2 weight classes, that's biting off a whole lot, man. But one thing for certain, 2 things for sure. We're going to find out here once it actually goes down. What's good, Brandon Martindale? What's up, my Ohio brother? You said we definitely got to do it again. Oh, I appreciate the props, man. You said nice breakdown. I appreciate that, man. And in the future, man, yeah, we will link up and politic on boxing. Oh, and everybody right now in this chat room, do me a favor. It's about, I think, I don't know if it's 9 of y'all, but whatever. Do me a big favor, y'all. Hit the thumbs up button, please. Hit the thumbs up for me. I really appreciate it. Um, Scotty Godbody. Canelo having flatter feet than he did when he fought Floyd Mayweather. And Bud being a switch hitter and savvy. I just don't see Canelo winning this. Interesting, man. Um, they say skills pay the bills. So if anybody got the skills to pull it off, like I said, it would be Bud Crawford, just like you just said, to your point. Um, but I guess in the same aspect, when have we seen Canelo hurt in that ring? You know, uh, man, it's an interesting matchup. It's an interesting matchup for sure. I like Bud Crawford. I'm a Spence fan. To keep it 100, I'm an Errol Spence fan, but I do believe in not trying not to be biased, and also I give credit where it's due. So Bud Crawford, like I said, hats off to him, and I don't know, man. He could upset everybody, but time will tell. Graham Cook, Joseph Parker. There is, but styles make fights. Look at Usyk versus Fury. Huge weight difference. Oh yeah, facts, man. And with Dubois, to me, what he has obviously is power over the power of Dubois is very, very dangerous. It's that one bomb that lands flush that will either knock out his opponent or he will drop them. And what we saw with AJ was he just didn't recover. Joseph Parker has better recovery than AJ. We saw that with Zilly Zhang when he was dropped twice. We've seen him dropped by Dillian White, and Parker got back up and dropped Dillian White later in that fight. So once again, I just don't want people to think that Joseph Parker is he's not coming to lay down. He's coming in there with the same mentality as Daniel Dubois. And just me thinking of Joseph Parker, he does come off as that family guy when you see him with his family. But he needs to have that switch. Hopefully he has that. Because he comes off like Usyk. They kind of are, they can be too much of gentlemen, if that makes sense. Like, be a gentleman outside the ring. But once you're in that ring, turn on that switch to be the meanest and baddest man ever. Because Daniel Dubois is not coming in there to play with him. He's coming in there to really cause some carnage. So Joseph Parker needs to have the same energy that Dubois has coming in that ring when they do fight. And if Joseph Parker hurts him, he doesn't want to back up off the injured Dubois. He doesn't want to be reckless. But if he does hurt him, he needs to go ahead and finish the job. Because if it's the other way around and Dubois hurts Parker, you best believe he's taking him up out the mix. He's not going to give you no second chance. He just proved that with AJ. So if Parker can somehow hurt Daniel Dubois, he needs to step on that acceleration and get him up out of there. Yeah, I agree, Brandon. Triple D, Daniel Dubois, he does have to be smart. But um, let's be real. Is he the most smart when it comes to ring IQ? I mean, of course, he has power. He has size. He throws to the body good. He does good body work. But when you think of him and Joseph Parker, the mindset, the mentality is Joseph Parker's a different league. He's more well rounded on both ends. I like boxers who have that type of skill where they're not only offensively sound, they're also defensively sound. And it's like um, it's like Joseph Parker inhibits all those attributes. All right, Brandon, you say Bud is skilled, but man, if he can't get Canelo's respect, he's in trouble. Yeah, yeah, and that's kind of what I was alluding to earlier, man. Is that I hope that his power transcends from 154 to 168, and that he can acclimate to that new division because uh, there's not many boxers that I can say that have that type of power. Special power that I would say who could transcend another weight division up or two. You heard stories of the remarkable late great Sugar Ray Robinson back in the early years in 1930s, 1940s. Sugar Ray Robinson, they said, hit a lot harder than a person of his weight division. And then you had people like, well, you got Tate Davis, but he hasn't really shown to want to move to other weight divisions. But the type of power that you see in Tank, you can see him moving up at least one weight class, and he can still hurt an opponent that's heavier than him because he has a special type of power. Um, and I don't know. I don't know if Bud has that type of power, but we're going to see. We're going to see. Um, yeah. So okay. So we just talked about Bud Crawford and Canelo. Let's also talk about um, Caballel, the dark horse of the heavyweight division. Caballel versus Zilly Zhang. Zilly Zhang, hailing out of Asia, who was also at the Ring Magazine Awards. Shout out to Zilly Zhang, who was definitely present at the Ring Magazine Awards. And Caballel is one that people need to see. I've seen somebody say in a boxing group they didn't necessarily rate Caballel, and I was wondering why. I say he's the type of guy who's maybe had 25 fights, no losses. Uh, and of his last few fights, he showed that he's there and he means business. He displayed that against the Cuban Flash, Frank Sanchez. Caballel also fought the much bigger Russian Magmadov and stopped him with body shots. So I think he would proceed with Zilly Zhang in a similar fashion. That he's going to zone in on his body and make that the focal point of his offense because he's fighting a much taller man, Zilly Zhang, the bigger man, Zilly Zhang. So I think he needs to zone in on his body, rip those shots, those hooks, and get in the inside where Zilly Zhang is going to be uncomfortable if he can get within range. And Zilly Zhang, who's a lot longer, who's going to want him at the end of his jab, if he can close that distance and get closer in there and go to the body, I think he will give Zilly Zhang issues and problems, and he will also bring something to Zilly Zhang that Zilly Zhang has never witnessed before. You know, much like Joseph Parker, Caballel is well-rounded, offensively and defensively. Now, he will be put to the test with Zilly Zhang. He's fighting somebody who's a southpaw. and can punch like can knock out a horse type punch. So the question is, we know he's going to be using his head movement, his footwork, and all this. But at some point, most likely, he's going to catch a few flush punches off of Zilly Zhang. Now, what kind of effect will it have on Kabayel? And how good of a chin does Kabayel have? And or how good is his chin resistance and recovery if he does get hurt by Zilly Zhang? These are all the things we will start to find out when we see Kabayel versus Zilly Zhang. Ajit Kabayel versus Zilly Zhang. So for those when we're pertaining to Kabayel versus Zhang, who do y'all feel would win and how? What is your prediction? Just having some fun right now in this chat room. What is your position pertaining to those two fighters? If I had to say it, I'm going to go against the grain. I am going to give it to Kabayel because I think that he has enough skill to be smart enough to know that Zhang is coming to knock him out. He knows that Zhang, he's so big and so much weight, he's going to need to go and try to get Kabayel out in the early rounds. So what Kabayel has to do is survive the first half of the fight, be smart, watch out for what they call the quote unquote the kill shot, the shot that's going to knock you out. Move around enough, but be offensively sound enough at the same time to rack up points. Then when the round 7 and 8 come around, most likely Zilly Zhang is going to be tired. He's going to be trying to chase around the smaller guy. And when he gets tired, like Big George Foreman did against Muhammad Ali back in their golden era of boxing, that's when Kabayel needs to turn up. Once he senses fatigue in his opponent, Zilly Zhang, turn up! All right, so we also got the Tank Davis and Lamont Roach. From what I'm hearing, the fight is still a go, although there was a lot of controversy on different other podcasts and social media stuff saying that the fight may not still take place. Somebody on FB claims that Lamont Roach Jr. versus Tank Davis will still take place in March. I also seen something trending. I can't say for sure, I can't confirm or deny this, but it's just something that I saw. Is that the fight with Errol Spence versus Sebastian Fundora was canceled. As an Errol Spence fan myself, I'm sorry at this news if it is true, because I have been waiting quite a while to see, since the loss to Bud Crawford, how would Errol Spence react. And shout out to Desmond Scobie out of Texas. When we talked on here last time, he was saying how, and Dwayne, yo, what's good, fam? Ohio runs boxing. Shout outs to Ohio, baby. So what we were talking about was the fact that with Sebastian Fundora, he's very, very tall, very, very rangy. He has the rangy build, tall and long, but he doesn't fight that way. For some reason, he gives up his advantage of his long reach, his long jab. You know, a heavyweight boxer like Lennox Lewis loved his jab. Even guys who weren't as tall, like Larry Holmes, they love the jab. They love the jab to keep you at bay, to keep their opponent at bay, and as a, as a rangefinder. But Sebastian Fundora, for whatever reasons, even though he's not a heavyweight, he's at like 154. But I don't understand why he doesn't execute his jab more. So with him kind of fighting in close with Spence, the shorter opponent, hypothetically, if they are still to fight, he's given up his advantages and playing into the hands of the smaller Errol Spence, the shorter Errol Spence, shorter arms. So he's now allowing Spence to close the gap of that long reach. He doesn't have to get past that long jab because Fundora doesn't seem to execute that very much. And although he fights good on the inside, we saw where Fundora got knocked out by a shorter opponent. You know, fighting in close when he should have been using more of a jab and keeping distance and making his opponent respect his jab. He conformed to the smaller fighter, and then in doing that, he was knocked out. Heartless. Shout out Heartless. Crawford would not be able to take Canelo shots for 12 rounds. And I think Canelo will try. A lot of people saying he's been ducking Crawford. Yeah, I think those punches from Canelo, they definitely going to hit different. They're definitely going to be, Bud has never fought somebody two weight classes, not only two weight classes above his weight division, but somebody with the skill and power and pressure and chin that Canelo has. You know, if Canelo didn't have a great chin, see, because normally with boxers, generally it's very rare that a boxer has all the intangibles. All the intangibles. It's very rare. For instance, like I said, I'm an AJ fan. Checkmark. Power. Punch power. Checkmark. Punch placement. Accuracy. Checkmark. Um, Uppercuts and different range of punches. But the downside to AJ, once you hit him in the chin good, he goes down. It's like he can't gather himself again. So his recovery is not great. We've seen that against Andy Ruiz. We've seen that against Dubois recently. We saw that against Dillian White and Vlad Klitschko, that his recovery he struggles with. So there's always that one thing that a boxer has, that one or two things that they have. But with Canelo, I see very, very small error of margin of error with him. Canelo has a great chin. He applies calculated pressure. He throws a decent amount of punches. His punch output, his ring IQ is good. Ring generalship is top notch. His guards are pretty good. His defense. So you're dealing with somebody who pretty much covers all bases of boxing when you fight Canelo. There's not many people like a Canelo that are like that in every facet of what they do in boxing. So it's going to be the toughest fight and a long night for Bud Crawford. It's going to be a long night. You know, those 12 rounds are going to probably feel like a 15-round fight because he's fighting somebody so rugged and so tough. He's going to dish out all he can dish out to Canelo just to see Canelo standing right in front of him like this. probably might even smirk at him like, "Oh, that didn't really hurt me." That's when it gets scary. When you're hitting your opponent and it's not taking any effect on them. It's gonna be something to see. That's for sure. And I'm definitely going to be tuned in to watch that take place. Um, all right, so we covered Benavidez and Morrell. Anybody want to weigh in on David Benavidez versus Morrell? Who will win? Comment in this chat room. David versus David. Um, Also, another boxer that was at the Ring Magazine Awards that has been labeled as the boogeyman of the heavyweight division. And I think you know where I'm going with this. Hailing out of Congo, Africa, Martin Bacoli. Yep, you heard it, folks. Martin Bacoli. And he has a lot to say. He's been having a lot to say. He's definitely the trending guy. Him and his affiliates. They've been having a lot to say. And shout out to Billy Nelson. You say that Martin Bacoli would be the one to knock out Alexander Usyk. We saw Usyk beat the likes of Daniel Dubois in a controversial fight. He beat Anthony Joshua twice, and he beat Tyson Fury twice. Prior to them, in heavyweight, he beat Chaz Witherspoon, and he beat Del Boy Derek Chisora. So Usyk has beat all those guys, became undisputed, and Mr. Nelson claims that Martin Bacoli will knock out Usyk. Another person calling out Usyk is a smaller fighter, hailing out of, I believe, Australia. And I believe he's from Samoan background. Um, he's a southpaw fighter. Light heavyweight, 175 pounds, I believe. And that would be none other than Jai Apataya. Jai Apataya, we saw his last fight, and he stopped his opponent convincingly. And it was, man, he got his opponent up out of there. Now, Jai Apataya, I believe he wants a shot at Alexander Usyk. But Usyk right now, as of late, has been campaigning as a heavyweight. But he was a former cruiserweight. So, do we think, just hypothetically, that, say, a couple more fights, Usyk fights at heavyweight? He gives Daniel Dubois a rematch, or he fights the winner of Parker versus Dubois. Or Zhang versus Kabayel winner gets a shot at Usyk. So say Usyk fights the winner of one of those fights, and then maybe fights one more fight at heavyweight. Most likely, he may want to go back to his original weight at cruiserweight, and possibly we could see a fight with Jai Apataya versus Alexander Usyk. And I think I made a mistake. I might have said that Jai Apataya was a light heavyweight, but I believe he's a cruiserweight, which is one division above light heavyweight. Um, so do you think that if Ja Apataya versus um, Usyk came to fruition, how would you see that playing out? Just in a hypothetical, just thinking that the fight could possibly happen in the future. Who would you who would you pick? Who would be your prediction? Also, Martin Bacoli versus Usyk. How would you see that playing out? And big shout outs to Big Kiki. Shout out to you, fam. Uh, I know we were talking on FB, man, and you were saying that uh, you felt Martin Bacoli would beat Usyk. Usyk and somebody else you said. It might have been Daniel Dubois, but you said Bacoli would beat both of those guys. So much respect to you, man. Because eventually, if we see those matches, um, uh, you know, hey, we will get to actually see what unfolds on that night if it happens. Uh, Cause Scoob, you say Bud is built for it. Oh, all day, man, all day. He's definitely built for it, man. Um, he just he's a special fighter, just like his trainer would say, Bomac. Hey, Bud is a special fighter. That's how he says that. He's a very special fighter, and he is. He's every bit of that. So shout outs to Bomac and shout outs to Terrence Bud Crawford. Um, and you say in response to Benavidez versus Morrell, Scoob, uh, you got Benavidez all day. I was maybe I'm a little biased because I'm a Benavidez. I like him. I want to see him versus. I want to see Benavidez eventually versus Canelo, and hopefully Turkey Alashake will put that in effect after the Crawford fight. Should Canelo beat Bud Crawford, I would love to see um, at light heavyweight, 175 pounds, Canelo Alvarez versus David Benavidez. Hey, what's up, Legacy Man? Shout outs. Thanks for the love, brother. Salute. Salute to you as well, man. For sure, man. And to everybody here, for those who might have just joined chat room, please hit the thumbs up button above. Just click that thumbs up for me. And also to everybody out here, um, tell family members or close friends uh, that you know are boxing fans. Tell them to please subscribe, man. Um, Getting bigger and bigger as we move along. Um, and I couldn't do this without the help and support of everybody out here right now. So let me just say thanks to everybody that's supporting and rocking with this movement here at Ring Walk Boxing Podcast. Um, okay, I'm gonna go back up to Heartless and read that because earlier there was a emoji in my way. I couldn't read everything. So you said Crawford will not be able to take Canelo's shots for 12 rounds, and you think Canelo will try to shut up a lot of people saying he's been ducking Crawford. Okay, that part. That's the part that went over my head. I couldn't really read everything. Yeah, yeah. People were kind of saying that Crawford, that Canelo was ducking Terrence Crawford. So that would definitely flatline that whole notion. But another person they're saying that he's ducking is David Benavidez. So, Heartless, do you think that Canelo will eventually fight David Benavidez at 175 pounds? Because that's the fight I really want to see more so than Canelo versus Bud. But I mean, either match is going to be a very good match. Um, just as a boxing fan. All right, so we covered a lot of good topics of the upcoming February bouts and March bouts. Um, we can't forget, since I brought up Tank, whenever you bring up Tank, uh, you kind of always want to bring up Shakur Stevenson in the same breath. Shakur Stevenson will be fighting the up and coming. Um, they you call we call him Kid Austin, Floyd Schofield. Um, that to me is the perfect time that Shakur needs to show up and show out. And what I'm saying with that is, we've seen in the past, of course, him being somewhat ridiculed because people feel like Shakur Stevenson fights are not the most enthusiastic performances. However, now he has an up and coming Floyd Schofield who is somewhat green. He's not as experienced. He hasn't had the level of fights that Shakur has. So this would be the prime opponent for him to actually show how truly skilled he is and why Shakur Stevenson could be a potential threat to Tank. Because a lot of people don't think he has any type of that he is no threat to Tank Davis. I can't personally see to where he would be an issue for Tank, but maybe it's something he'll do versus Floyd Schofield that'll make people kind of change their minds. This would be the perfect opponent for him to take smaller risk and do things that he would normally do against a more seasoned fighter. You know, so we'll see. I'm expecting nothing less than a stoppage in this fight. Uh, it shouldn't be a 12 round fight. Um, it should be a fight where he can stop the fight roughly within about 10 rounds. That he can stop Schofield. Um, it would be something to see if he could even drop Kid Austin. You know, to see Shakur Stevenson actually turn up and to have that switch and be able to turn up a notch, kind of like his big brother, Bud Crawford. He has that switch. You know, we saw that with the fight versus Errol Spence. We saw that in a few other opponents that he fought, Gamboa and other ones, that Spence would take it up another notch and another gear and stop his opponent and get his man up out of there. So I'm hoping that we see some serious similarities when it comes to Shakur Stevenson, and that he can do the same against the young up and coming Floyd Schofield. Make a statement. That's what I'm looking forward to see, and I'm pretty sure a lot of other people out here are looking forward to seeing the same. Um, so so we covered a lot of good topics today. Um, so if you had one or two fights of 2024, what would be some of your highlights? Some of your favorite matches or some of the upsets that happened in 2024 of last year? Um, Definitely a highlight for me and a very much a shocker was the way that Bud Crawford handled Errol Spence. I never, I ain't gonna say I couldn't see him winning, but I didn't see him actually like taking it to Spence on the way that he did, on the level that he did. He pretty much just manhandled him after round three. From like round four on through, he pretty much just knew how to turn it up a notch every round, man. And the first round, I went back and watched it. The first few rounds, Spence jab looked very good. His range was decent, but eventually, being the smart fighter that he is, Bud Crawford started seeing some type of maybe he saw the rhythm, and he started downloading data, and he was able to he was able to change the whole trajectory of that fight. So like I say, I'm an Errol Spence fan, but much love and respect to Bud Crawford for putting it down like he did. Um, Another great fight of 2024. Um, of course, Ring Magazine, like I said, they gave Dubois knockout of the year, so that was another good a good performance for him. Um, and I'm just looking forward to what this year has to bring. And also, one last thing we could talk about was that speaking of Anthony Joshua and Turkey Island Shake and stuff, uh, there was a recent announcement from Tyson Fury that he will be retiring from boxing. Now, me personally, my opinion about that, Fury's pulled these stunts before where he said he was retiring. Probably like this, probably like the fourth or fifth time he's claimed retirement, and you see him back in the ring again. I don't think it's a retirement. I think it's just more of him maybe taking a little time off, and he just calling it retirement. Um, but it's more like he's putting everything on freeze for a minute. I think he's waiting to see what develops with the outcomes of these other matches, and I think eventually, if it's a clear path, and if AJ is free this year, springtime, summertime, we'll finally see a big showdown with Anthony Joshua versus Tyson Fury. The two guys who never had a chance to fight, two guys who fought different opponents. They had a few mutual opponents. Let me rewind it back. Klitschko was a common opponent. AJ and Fury both fought Klitschko. Otto Wallin, a common opponent. These guys both fought Otto Wallin. And then you had Ngannou, Francis Ngannou. AJ and Fury both fought, and they both fought Dillian White. So we got about four opponents in common that they fought. However, both of them have fought different style opponents aside of the four that were in common that I just named. You know, so I would like to see these two guys get it on. You hear all the backstory that AJ claims that in sparring he used to rough up Tyson Fury, and Fury admitted it himself that AJ was a beast back in the day, and this is years ago. So why not see these two guys get in the ring for a huge payday? I know a lot of people are speaking against it, but as a true boxing fan, and with me personally, regardless if I'm an AJ fan or not, which I am, but regardless of that, just the fact that I like boxing is something I want to see. You know, in UFC, look how many losses Anderson Silva had. These guys in UFC suffer a lot more losses than boxers, but yet UFC people, they're never, their fan base is never telling a fighter just to retire after 3, 4 losses. They still would want to see Anderson Silva, even if he lost 6 times. Hypothetically, if John Stone Jones had lost multiple fights, 3 fights, 4 fights, they wouldn't be rallying for him to retire. They'd be wanting to see who's next in line for him to fight. So why can't boxers condition their mindset, boxing fans condition their mindsets like the UFC fan base? I think it'll go a lot longer way and it will put a lot more respect in the sport of boxing. That just because you lose a few fights doesn't mean that your career is over. Because if you go back in the '90s era, the golden era, Ray Mercer, shout out to Ray Mercer, um, Evander Holyfield, Mike Tyson, even Lennox Lewis had two losses. So fighters of the past have had losses in boxing. Nothing is new under the sun, such as in life. Same with boxing. Like what's happened before, it will happen in this era. And right before this new era, this new era and generation of boxers take over, the young guys like Martin McCauley, Moses and Tama, Fabio Wardley, Big Frazier Clark. Before those guys take over the game of boxing, it'd be cool to still see, like I say, AJ and Fury getting in before it's all said and done. Um, because I know AJ, from what I'm hearing, he has a list of fighters that pique his interest, and obviously Fury was probably number one. He wants the Fury fight. AJ wants a rematch against Daniel Dubois, a potential rematch with Joseph Parker, and then he wants Martin McCauley. He wants that fight to happen in Africa because, and I just break it down for some people who don't know. Yes, Anthony Joshua is from UK. He was born in United Kingdom, but his dad is from Nigeria. So a lot of his cousins and uncles and all that, they still live over in Africa. So AJ goes back home to his dad's home, and Nigeria is his heritage, although he's from UK. So Turkey Alishek has made statements that in the future it could be a potential fight in Africa, in Congo, where Martin McCauley is from, and we'd have a showdown with McCauley versus Joshua. That would definitely be a banger. Um, so there's just a whole lot of different big fights coming up in the future, and with Turkey Alishek in the mix of boxing, uh, hey, things couldn't be things couldn't be any better. Also, speaking of Martin McCauley, uh, he'll be fighting the Nigerian fighter Efe Ajagba. That's going to be a good fight. An interesting uh, clash of two guys. You know, two African fighters, one from Congo, one from Nigeria. Uh, both have power, but McCauley is one who he puts that pressure on you. He's coming in as his opponent, and he's whereas Fa Jabba is more shout out to Plebe 1300. Shout outs, man. You said Canelo is going to catch a body for the Rasa. Um, Canelo, man, he's no joke. I mean, he's definitely no joke, man. Bud is definitely he's definitely up against a very dangerous opponent, man. With a legend like Canelo Alvarez, who's never been truly troubled in the ring. Shout out to Boxing Magic. Uh, you said, do I think Turkey is moving fighters too fast? Um, well, he had an interview with Talk Sports Boxing, and he was saying that it's not so much even Turkey Alashek. Yeah, he's a fan of boxing, but he said what he's doing is for the people of um, the Middle East. He said the Middle East has a heavy fan base, so it's not so much of a personal situation where it's like I'm Turkey Alashek, I'm a huge fan of boxing. I want this to happen because I got the financial means to make it happen. It's like he's also caring about the people of his nation. So he's basically saying that my nation over here loves boxing. We have a huge boxing fan base, and I'm going to give these fans what they want. It's like who we would want the same thing over here in the U.S. or wherever you're from. You would want a representative of boxing to be like, if that's a sport you follow, I want to invest in the sport for the love of and the fan base of y'all. Not so much for me, but for me and all of us. So I mean, I think that he's not necessarily moving them too fast. I think he's just trying to see the best fight the best. He's tired of the certain fighters not wanting to fight this guy, or certain fighters saying that, oh, I'm getting a low percentage cut of money, so I don't want to fight this opponent. His thing is, look, I'll give y'all both this set amount of money. Will y'all now fight each other? He's coming like straight at these top level fighters and trying to make them fight. He's trying to see the best fight the best, and he's tired of the a fighter that's at this level of a resume and step down. Well, prime example: Deontay Brown, Deontay the Bronze Bomber Wilder is supposed to be having a comeback fight against a name opponent that many don't even really know. Uh, the same guy that they say was supposed to fight F.A. Ajagba, and when he stepped into the ring, he walked back out the ring. So it's just like, how could you be taken seriously to fight somebody that many don't know with all these losses and what they consider a journeyman, and Wilder wants to fight? That's not the type of level of a fight that Turkey Alashek wants. He wants to see people. If you're an ex-champ or whatever, he might want to see you fight another former champ. So it would make more sense to see, actually, if anything, instead of Wilder fighting this guy Curtis, can't remember his last name, but I think he should fight Dillian White, the guy who was a mandatory for so many years and never got his opportunity to fight Deontay Wilder. Dillian White versus Deontay Wilder is a much better fight than the opponent that Wilder is about to fight. And I believe that's going to be on BOK Prime or something on a different platform. Boxing, next side, you said you think if he don't marinate some fights, then we might not get mega fights no more. Yeah, yeah, that's what it looks like, man. Yeah, I get it. Some people like to marinate fights a bit, and we've grown accustomed. We have grown accustomed to marinating fights or seeing people marinating certain fights. And it's like And it's like with Turkey, Alishake, he's coming so fast and full force. He's making these fights happen like that. You know, right, right, right in front of us that fast, and we're shocked. Like, whoa, how did he bring these two guys in agreement to have this fight? You know what I mean? He's just making all kind of stuff happen. And then we got the rematch between Bivol and Berterviev coming up. We just got some great fights. I think 2025 so far, looking at what we have and what we just spoke on this live stream, I think 2025 so far will exceed what happened in 2024. I think that we're on a path that Turkey Alishake is taking it up a notch, and that 2025 in the sport of boxing is going to be huge because not only do we have a few guys that may have a few good fights from this era, but you got that new era that's coming up right behind them. So now in 2025, Moses and Tama, he's gonna have his shine. Speaking of Moses and Tama, Daniel Dubois has also spoken on the name of Moses and Tama and said he wants to be the first person to knock out Moses and Tama. So yeah, 2025 is going to be. You're going to want to definitely be in tune on what's going on in the sport of boxing this year. Boxing Magic Mech side, you said Wilder is not in shape to be fighting anyone. Yeah, man. A lot of people are somewhat opposed to seeing Wilder fight, and maybe that's why he took what you would call the low hanging fruit. He's not going to take the what's high up on the tree right now. He wants to take what's low hanging, and I get it, I guess, because his last performance against Zhilei Zhang, he was pretty much dominated, as he was with Joseph Parker in the fight before that. So a lot of times, I think fighters, once they lose a few fights, they want to get in that winning column. So if he can fight a person that's not on that upper echelon of um, the boxing level or whatever, it's like he has a better chance of beating this guy, and that will get him a win over another win under his belt, another notch up under his belt. Um, Yo, what's up, bro? Roger Downs, what's going on? My guy here, local to the Cincinnati area. What's up, man? You say Roger Downs. Hopefully, Wilder versus AJ happens. Yeah. To me though, I'm more intrigued to see Wilder. I mean, not Wilder, but AJ versus Fury. Only because we got two different styles. We've already seen what AJ looks like against a power puncher when he fought Daniel Dubois. Now, Daniel Dubois does a lot more than Deontay Wilder, but when you look at it for what it is, they're two knockout artists. I'd rather see AJ fight a Fury who's more of a technically sound boxer who doesn't have the same amount of power, but he has everything else that AJ doesn't have. Just to see if AJ can put pressure on him, if AJ can go to his body, if AJ can catch him. Because people still say AJ won't land a glove on him. Yet, Ngannou, Isla Wallen, and these guys, they landed punches on Fury quite a bit. Although they lost, they still were able to significantly land punches. Boxing Magic Mech side, you said Wilder versus Ruiz. They've both been doing about the same. Well, I will say this, bro. I feel like Ruiz still has a lot of unlike Wilder, he hasn't been knocked out. Ruiz has never been knocked out. Shout out to Andrew Ruiz. He's never been knocked out. He's only been dropped by Anthony Joshua and then I believe Luis Ortiz. That dropped him, or Areola dropped him, but Luis Ortiz did not. So he was dropped by two different opponents and got right back up. So his recovery is great. I think the main issue with Andrew Ruiz, which is really sad, he has so much skill